How did I end up so far from home? What I've come to realize is that learning is the most astonishing and wonderful thing that human beings have come up with. Learning makes us different from everything else in nature. Some bits of nature can do a little bit of learning, but not like human beings can do learning. And learning is the richest and most exciting thing we can do. The problem is that so many young people in the world today are locked out of learning. They're in school, they're being told things, they're acquiring knowledge, but they're not learning. And without that connection with learning, they're bored, disengaged, and not making progress. And our aim is to reconnect all those young people with the power of learning. Here in Fruitier, what we're trying to do is to give them the capacity to endlessly reinvent what they do, helping teachers reimagine learning, because that is what has the most powerful effect on children's learning in the long term. My name is Paul Collard. I'm Chief Executive of an international foundation based in Newcastle in England called Creativity, Culture and Education. And what we at CCE have argued for more than a decade in working around the world is that the way to reconnect children and young people to learning is to reconnect them to their own creativity. Our model generally pairs artists and teachers, placing them together in the classroom to work with children, to reinvent learning, to co-create activities and projects which deepen and improve the experience of education for all. And these partnerships have been powerful and effective and have improved attainment, well-being and attendance in thousands of schools around the world. And what is heartening is that the need to reconnect children and young people with their creativity is now gaining widespread international support. Andreas Schleicher is Director of Education for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and is the man who developed and implemented the PISA test, which 15 to 16-year-old students all over the world sit in science, maths and literacy. His ideas, however, on the challenges young people face has now changed, as can be seen from this speech he gave in Durham late in 2018.
Everyone talks about creativity, but I think we came to realize only very recently that this is an agenda where education and culture play such a central role. In one way, the kind of industrial approach to schooling, where children were educated in batches of age and all go through the same standardized and prefabricated curriculum and instruction, it hasn't really been conducive to nurturing the kind of creativity and innovation that we need in this age of accelerations. Things have changed, and the dilemma for educators is now that the routine cognitive skills, the skills that are easiest to teach and easiest to test, are exactly the skills that are also easiest to digitize, to automate, and to outsource. When we could still assume that what we learn in school will last for a lifetime, routine cognitive skills were rightly at the center of education. But today, the world no longer rewards us just for what we know. Google knows everything, but for what we can do with what we know. Schools now need to prepare students for more rapid change than ever before, to learn for jobs that have not been created, to tackle social challenges that we can't yet imagine, and to use technologies that have not been invented. What I mean is that these days, we no longer know how things will unfold. Often we are surprised, and we need to learn from the extraordinary. And sometimes we make mistakes along the way. And it will be often the mistakes and failures, when properly understood, that create the context for learning and for growth. And I might even go a step further. The ability to develop competencies is itself something to be learned, using reflection, anticipation, action. Reflective practice is needed to take a critical stance when deciding, choosing, acting. To step back from the established wisdom of our times and take a different perspective. Anticipation mobilizes cognitive skills such as analytical or critical thinking. To foresee what might be needed in the future or how actions that we take today might have consequences for the future. And both reflective practice and anticipation contribute to the willingness to take responsible actions, in the belief that it's within our own power that we can shape the course of events. Tomorrow's employees are probably going to work in very small organizations, using digital platforms to create new products and new services. And future jobs are likely to pair computer intelligence with the creative, social, and emotional skills, the attitudes and the values of human beings. It'll then be precisely our capacity for innovation, our awareness, and our sense of responsibility that will equip us to harness machines to shape the world for the better. So in whatever way you construct your list of 21st century skills, you'll always come across creativity in one or the other way. Creating new value as a transformative competency, bringing together the processes of creating, of making, of bringing into being and formulating, and looking for outcomes that are innovative, fresh, original, outcomes that contribute something of intrinsic positive worth. And creating new value suggests entrepreneurialism in the broader sense of being ready to venture, to try without anxiety about failure. This is all about imagination, inquisitiveness, persistence, collaboration, self-discipline.
The definition of creativity that Andreas finishes with in that video is one developed by Bill Lucas, Guy Claxton and Ellen Spencer for CCE 10 years ago. We needed a definition of creativity that artists, teachers, children and young people could understand, and the team from Winchester came up with the 5 habits of creative learning. They are to be inquisitive, persistent, imaginative, disciplined and collaborative, and developing these habits of learning in children and young people lies at the heart of all our international programs. We have learnt that these creative learning habits of mind remain valid across cultures and across continents because they are related to how we learn, which is true of all humans, and hence at the heart of the incredible diversity of children and young people across the world is a deep human commonality, creativity. And we have learnt that the learning environment that stimulates and develops our creativity is what we now call the high-functioning classroom, and you can see in the image. It is an environment in which children are challenged to think for themselves rather than give answers, where they are physically, socially and emotionally engaged, where the learning feels authentic and relevant to their lives, and their questions, interests and experiences shape the learning, where emotions are acknowledged and addressed, and where we learn to be deeply reflective.